we as a group, me, Abhinav, Rania, Vignesh, and Venkatesh Madinani, are going to speak about the topic, which is cloud computing. So before we get into the further presentation, I'll just give you a brief explanation about what is cloud computing. So cloud computing is the on-demand availability of computer system resources, specifically data storage and computing power without direct active management by the user. The term is generally used to describe data centers available to many users over the internet. So how this cloud computing will be bringing a next step to the healthcare will be explained by our team. So according to a different resource by Peter M. Well, cloud computing is a model for enabling ubiquitous, convenient, on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources, example networks, servers, storage, applications, and services that can rapidly be provisioned and released with minimal management effort or service provider interaction. So cloud computing will be a very advantageous step in the healthcare as it helps to provide extend the healthcare services to rural areas where there has been a lot of trouble providing efficient health services. And we have also discussed in our presentation from the article that was taken as reference with the rural healthcare in China, uh, and how cloud computing and how the CERB has helped in providing efficient health service. So can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so CMED, Cloud-Based Medical System Framework. So what is CMED? Cloud-Based Medical System is a framework for cloud-based smart health monitoring system for the rural people of developing countries. It is a low-cost portable system where devices will be connected to the central system, which is connected to the cloud, where cloud will be storing all the information about the patient and his diagnosis. So in this project, a private cloud was set up within the hospital system based on the interaction of SaaS and IaaS model. So what is this platform can help patients to record their vitals on medical devices, upload their health information for doctors to analyze along with their existing EHRs, take prescriptions from doctors, and order medicine to pharmaceuticals and get personalized advanced treatment in the comfort of their homes. So in simple terms, the patient does not need to worry if they have got just basic symptoms. They can just record their data with the various sensors that are available in the market, and that sensors will be able to pull up the patient data and store it in the EHR, and from wherein the clinician or the healthcare service provider can access the data and provide the required medication. So it's gonna be an easy process or an easy way to provide healthcare services to reach out people who live in rural areas. Can you go to the next slide? So here I'll be discussing what is the significance of CMED framework to healthcare information technology. CMED framework will impact the healthcare information technology at a very significant level. It is a great platform for the rural people in developing countries where it utilizes Internet of Things, enables FDA or CE certified medical devices through mobile application. It helps in regular monitoring of health status, especially in rural areas of developing countries, as I explained in the previous slide. With the help of CMED framework, the structure of the healthcare system would drastically change where serving of primary healthcare service will enabled at an optimal way. So there are countries wherein, for example, in our article, it is given about China. So China has a place wherein there is no reach of proper efficient healthcare service, and CMED framework or the cloud computing will be very much beneficial in such areas. Doctors need not store the patient history nor the diagnosis report as the data is stored in the cloud using CMED framework. So there is no need of extra storage or no need of keeping any records of patient data, and it's all over the cloud. It also provides a lot of research opportunities to make this cloud services more user-friendly and more accessible to even remote areas in developing countries. Yeah, so next slide. So the main question here arises is CMED secure? Yes, it is. Integrating security in a healthcare is a huge task, but the use of identity-based keys will generate a lot of security to the healthcare system and the data as well. CMED framework will also enable high security of the healthcare data using IBE. What is IBE? Identity-based encryption techniques, which will be a significant factor in a healthcare domain process. CMED framework will also be using private cloud, which will increase the healthcare system performance and reliability. In the IBE-based encryption method, master private key will be only accessed by the patient and community healthcare worker, which enables high security in the patient's day. So basically, whatever is the patient's data, that is very highly encrypted, and it is not given or outsourced to a third party, wherein there will be any kind of data breach. So we don't need, so that's the good news. Like, we don't need to worry about the privacy concern, and CMED is pretty much secured. So next slide. CMED, a gap filler in rural healthcare. So CMED will enable the patients to know about their current health status at a rapid rate by popping up the status as health or alarming agency regularly, which will enable patients to be more proactive in using precautionary measures. CMED framework will deliver a competent healthcare service to the rural areas in developing countries. CMED will also make a huge dip in the cost, where this framework will fulfill all the gaps of traditional healthcare centers. So nowadays, in the traditional healthcare system, usually, if there is a patient who is suffering from chronic disease, so a kind of like mild dizziness or headaches or any kind of chest pain will worry the patient, and they are not able to go to a doctor, or they stay in rural side of the place, they're not able to get access to the healthcare service. So how can this be filled? This can be filled, like I mentioned, with the sensors which are available in the market that store the data, and that will help connect it to the clinician, and as a result they can get the proper medication. Now, if you refer to the current scenario in developing countries, there's a lot of scarcity of healthcare centers in rural areas. This framework will fulfill that bridge and make accessible to the patients who are even in the below poverty line. Usage of cloud technology will decrease the need for healthcare devices with high computation capability. Yeah, so this is where I'll discuss about the rural healthcare in China, a devastating issue. So there was a setting that was set up in China in order to determine how cloud computing was serving the rural healthcare of China, and how it can benefit the rural healthcare in China. So China's healthcare system comprises of 3 levels: city hospitals, country hospitals, and village health. These 3 hospitals or these 3 medical service providers are very much important right now for the Chinese healthcare system, because any of the symptoms or any kind of disease is treated by majority by the city hospitals, and then the rural areas are treated by the village health. So this is the rural health. I would rather specify it as the village doctor system, which is addressed as a term in China. And the healthcare providers in China's healthcare system are referred to as barefoot doctors. So why are they called as barefoot doctors? Just because if there is a complexity in a disease, the doctors are not able to treat them, because they're not informed or well informed about the information, so they cannot provide a good treatment. So they're called as barefoot doctors. So this is one kind of challenge that is faced by the village doctor system, that is the current system. Second challenge would be the low public health work priority, which such as unnecessary drug prescriptions, and the main challenge is related to health records. So it is becoming very difficult for the China compared to the China's population, which is the topmost population, largest population. It is becoming difficult for the doctors to keep the records of the patients. So how can this be helped? So these records of data can be stored on cloud, and then it can be accessed, and then the patients can be treated. So this is how we're going to explain about how cloud computing will help the rural healthcare in China. And it also proved to be difficult to manage chronic diseases, which is the most important aspect of current health state. Yeah, so next slide. So here I'll be explaining the significance of cloud computing. China's healthcare system struggles to meet the needs of 900 million people living in rural areas, which prevents from providing proper medication and chronic disease management. These challenges can be addressed by integrating the China's VID system, that is the village doctor system, with the electronic health records, that is the EHR, which collects individual patient information electronically to aid with implementation of chronic disease management programs. A solution was proposed which involved integrating the EHR with the cloud computing technology to deliver efficient services over the large health network. Cloud computing is a framework of various computing resources, both hardware and software, which delivers patient data to all levels of the healthcare system, aids in providing medication information to rural health workers, and improves integration of care between the different levels of healthcare system. So this, I had explained that this setting of the cloud-based EHR system was developed in Zilingol country, where the population is 1108951, and of Inner Mongolia province. So this was the area where usually the cloud computing, the cloud computing setting was done, and where it showed very good results. So next slide. So cloud-based EHR system, as I mentioned, the cloud-based EHR system, okay, comprises of SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. So what is SaaS? SaaS is a package software, OS and application stack server storage network. Uh, PaaS is OS and application stack server storage network, and IaaS is a server storage network. So why are we using SaaS and IaaS? The reason for this is that it is a large pool where associated with a pay-for-use model by the infrastructure provider. And this business model can have different characteristics like software area service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. The cloud-based EHR system data is stored on external servers and can be accessed via any device having internet connection. The cloud-based EHR comes from HealthGrid technology, and its hardware architecture is very flexible and scalable, with only one server needing to be deployed at each and every hospital. The hierarchy of the healthcare model in China can be deployed as shown in figure 2. So if you see the figure 2, it shows the breakup of the city hospital, the country hospital, and how the village doctors are getting access to all of this cloud data. So this will ease out our operations, and that will obviously help them. Can you go to the next slide? So integration of VID with cloud-based EHR systems. So how the village doctors can integrate with the cloud-based EHR system. In the previous slide, I showed you an image, but here is the explanation. So integrating VID with EHR provides access to remote areas via web interface. The patient data could be stored in the cloud service, preventing data loss. Gathering patients' data on a weekly basis helped to manage updated records in the system. The data collection efforts provided access to nomadic herdsmen, which is a significant portion of population in China. The chronic disease management, diabetic management, and blood pressure monitoring were highly benefited by using the EHR system. Thus, VID system was able to get a highly advanced turnover in healthcare. Now, in the later presentation, Rania will be explaining about the patient involvement from here.
I will start talk about the patient involvement. Next. How is the patient involved? The cloud computing involves the use of mobile application, which is a patient, it can be insert their healthcare information and get suggestion from their doctor based on their symptoms. The system preserves the patient's history and diagnosis, which can be accessed by both patient and doctor. Such a social networking application and mobile technology are currently in use, especially in USA, and now have a potential to use on a global scale. An example of such in the GPA-based services for the patient, for example, the Alzheimer's patient, these services provide the patient with an automatic system for a medical report, can be storage and prescription generation. The services may also include an online social discussion group for people with a similar health problem. And I think this one, it will help more patients. Now I'll talk about the smartphone application. Smartphone application, it can be used for some patient like a heart patient or an asthma patient. This possibly in future innovation include a smartphone-based application for healthcare. For example, this is a different type of sensor would be given to the patient that would collect physiological data, then transmitted to the mobile via Bluetooth. The user is able to see their health information on their phone, such as heart and respiration rate or skin temperature, body motion, even the voice recognition. This will explain in the next slide. Next. The voice recognition, this is another example of mobile application uses. We can take the voice of the patient as input through a smartphone, then sending the data to their internal doctor using the cloud, and the doctor will suggest a health advice after analyzing the voice input. And the system also can connect to external doctor if the patient needs an expert suggestion. This system can be determined the severity of the case by using a different color. This is mean he will recognize about the case from the different color like green, yellow, red, and then generate an emergency call according to the case. Next. The CHDW takes some necessary physiological measurements like the patient age, height, weight, body temperature, blood pressure, blood sugar, pulse, respiration, and ECG. These are automatically stored in the patient file in the central database directly from the sensor using the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. The sensor device used to measure this value are wireless connected to the CMED system. This is mean that all data for the patient can stored in his file. The sensor devices transmit their output to the CMED system. It analyzed all output from each sensor and classified them into categories according to some range and generate even recognized by the color, or we can put it as a range, normal range, or out of range, and generate an alert appropriate for the category. The patient's vital information is then classified into 1 or 3 categories. Even the patient is healthy or alarming and emergency. If the patient is healthy, then the system will generate a general message and next possible date of regular health monitoring, like normal checkup. Next. This alarming system, it will be after recognized about the type of patient, even healthy or alarming or emergency. The patient for alarming category, the system will generate an alert message and show the abnormalities of the vital information and suggest for an expert opinion. So maybe this message, it will be go directly to specialists. If the abnormalities are some common fundamental problem, then the system automatically generates some suggestion. If some unique problem occur, the system will suggest some specialists for further consultation. The system contacts the specialist, and the specialist gives some suggestion for checking for the patient file for the central database or communicating to the patient through the video call if needed. This is according to the severity of the case. Next. Next. The alarming system also in some cases, like in the case of emergency, an emergency alert is generated by the system, which suggests taking the patient to the healthcare center immediately, and it contacts some specialist for urgent diagnosis and advices. The system also sends the alert message to some emergency or a next to kin contact number stored in the patient file. All of this data are stored in the central cloud database for the future monitoring. This system is a regular health monitoring system, so after attending the patient and resolving his health problem, the healthcare professional gives the patient a possible date according to his health condition for his next checkup. The system generates an alert message and send it to the patient phone, remind him for the next visit for the to monitor the health session. Next. Now I'll talk about the involvement of healthcare professionals. Cloud computing allows all healthcare providers to gain access to the patient data and share it with the patient and with the relevant stakeholder. It promotes by facilitating the access of application and data from any location worldwide. The service provider for the government health department and hospital. This stakeholder can promote and implement this system in the hospital and community health care center to improve the basic health monitoring system with automated and efficient one. Next. Now I'll talk the example for the village doctor. If this cloud computing is a success or no, the healthcare professional who would be involved in a cloud computing in the village doctor system is considered a success on a cost-benefit base because the village doctor are incentivized by being provided with a salary and bonus for performance instead of pay for service as a other model to payment. So it will result in a reduction in drug cost and unnecessary drug prescription. Next. The cloud computing will create healthcare services for rural people that are equivalent to the urban healthcare service. Because when we comparing between the healthcare services in a rural area and urban area, and we try by cloud computing to make it the alternative scenario to the rural healthcare area. It will be providing a portal healthcare system with additional facility of a local community center, through which the rural people can get primarily and professionally healthcare with a regular monthly health monitoring process. It can also be a beneficial and appropriate system for the disabled which need regular health monitoring and diagnosis, like the chronic patients. Although the health worker working in a developing country seem highly favorable to the possibility for the DTN, which means the delay tolerant networking to support it in rural area. However, few projects have reported in utilization the implementation of the DTN on these projects and successful use of the point-to-point Wi-Fi when available demonstrate that with proper design projects can establish enough connectivity to the supported project on their own, even if connectivity to the internet, mobile phone network, and satellite is unavailable or too expensive, and this may be in some area, it will take in consideration. Next. The nursing information system as example to use the cloud computing. Nursing information system developed and implemented at the hospital. The purpose of the building the mobile nursing information system operation among wards through the all-in-one touch personal computer attached to each mobile phone. Nurses have the portable health clinic suitcase containing sensor to measure the weight, blood pressure, pulse rate, and body temperature and blood glucose. They can visit the patients door to door and collect the physiological data from this machine, from the suitcase, this one. So it will be help in the elder people. Next. Now I think Vinesh, he will explain the benefits.
Thanks, Rania. So as part of this particular presentation from benefits and issues of the tools, which was discussed as part of the articles will be discussed. So the article 1 basically discussed about a cloud EHR, and the article 2 discussed about cloud-based medical system. So first of all, the presentation from here will go like I will be discussing on the general benefits of the particular application and how this application has impacted the patients and care providers. So then it will be the issues with EHR systems general benefits. So as part of this particular application, it was very flexible and scalable because it had only one server which is located in the city hospital, and from the city hospital all the data were managed by the city hospital admins, and data were given to the town hospital and the rural town centers, which was managed by the village doctors. Then this application had two types of modes, that is one offline mode and the online mode. So this was made the doctors to update the data later on in case they are taking care of a patient or treating a patient in a area where there's no internet. So in case of an offline mode, the desktop version software of the application was used in order to update all the details of the patients. And this particular application had remote monitoring and auditing facility, where the auditing and monitoring facility will be managed by city hospital and by their operational teams. This particular application also had a proper authentication and authorization mechanism, where the doctors were given a username and password, while through which they have to log into the application, through which this particular application will be managed. And once the doctor wants to change any details or enter any details of a patient, they have to use this particular mechanism in order to enter into the particular application. There is also this particular system or the application had regular updates in order to be compliant with the security, so that there will also be sufficient security restrictions for this particular application. As part of this application, also helped in managing chronic disease management and discovery of new unexperienced or unexposed diseases. So in China, as part of the particular first article, in China, it was told that the chronic disease was hypertension and diabetes, which was very much among the populations of China. And this particular application helped to record all the patients' history in the database. Then similarly, there was also unknown consumption of heavy metal consumption in their body due to unclean water. So this ultimately damaged the gallstones of the human beings, and it causes health issues. So as part of this particular application, this particular disease were also found, because when the doctors went in person and took the investigation, they found this particular disease. So this application made the discovery of new disease, which is caused due to heavy metal consumption. Then there is no need of any separate investigation on software and hardwares of the system, because the software and hardware of the system will be centrally managed by the city hospital. That's why this particular application is more efficient for the rural areas. This particular application also had an advantage, where the doctors can renew their license for using this application only after taking a training of 100 hours. So this basically makes the doctor to be always updated with the current trends and functionalities of the particular EHR application. Through the offline mode of the application, the doctors were able to overcome the cultural challenges, where this increased the interaction between the doctors and patient when they went for the in-person diagnosis with the patient. And this supported to increase the public health, as well as help the preventive medicine program. The doctors also were aware of the various diseases which were among the rural areas, because once they were into the villages, they were able to diagnose each and every patient and find out the various diseases which were present in the particular environment or this particular area. This application also helps in record keeping, where all the data are managed electronically onto the system, and the data is saved in a database. Then possibility of outsourcing from urban hospital increases the higher level of higher officials of the healthcare system to be aware what is happening in the rural areas. So in this scenario, if they systems are outsourced from the city hospital, the database which is updated by the rural doctor will be viewed and managed by the higher officials which are who are present in the city hospital, and this will help to make this particular rural area visible to the higher officials, where from which they can get lot of medical funds and medical aids for supporting the health of these rural people. As part of the future benefits, this particular application can also support the teleconsultation, as well as the decision support functionalities can be improved, which will help the village doctors to improve the quality of care provided to that particular area. Can we move on to the next slide, please? As part of this particular slide, we will be discussing what are the various advantages are given to the patients. Being an IaaS structure, that is infrastructure as a service, the data which are stored as part of this particular database is highly secured, and the patients need not worry about any breach. The patients are automatically enrolled into the follow-up programs, and where they will be constant checking from the village doctors in case of any chronic illness. For example, if you see the table on your left, it shows the patients of hypertension and diabetes. The DM is nothing but diabetes, which who are enrolled for the follow-up program. So there are about 2,945 patients who are about hypertension follow-ups, and diabetes about 305 patients. So can we move on to the next slide? As part of this slide, I'll be explaining the benefits which are occurring to the health providers. The health providers can access the particular EHR system via a notebook computer, or that's via notebook computer through a web interface. There is also an auto sync up option which is provided for this functionality. When there is no connectivity, the auto sync option is working when the as it gets the internet connection. So when the doctor updates the database or the EHR system in an area where there's no network, once it gets syncs up with the internet, the data gets updated through a USB stick. This particular application also provides a lot of templates which helps the doctors to collect the data from the patients. Then there is also a color coding which is green or red, which helps for easy analyzing of the reading, as well as helps to treat the patients faster, and it also helps doctor to know which patients are in an emergency situation. The overview feature of the application helps to identify the patients with poor management, and they can this makes a doctor to focus on this particular patient's medication and lifestyle. Can you move on to the next screen, please? As part of this slide, you can see which I was explaining the color coding. So in this particular first image, you can see there will be on the column 5 and column 6, there are color codings which are used. That's in green or red. Red means they are under an abnormal state, and in case of green means they are in a normal state. So this color coding helps the doctor to identify the patients who need immediate medical support. Then the same screen on your below image shows that the horizontal bars on your left helps to capture the patient's demographic information, photo, medical history, and examination results. Can you move on to the next slide, please? So as this is the second application which was discussed as part of the second article, that is cloud-based medical system. This is also a medical system which has two features, where they can provide regular healthcare center visit support, as well as a portable healthcare service support to the community health workers. Portable support works in case where there is a portable kits for monitoring purpose. And once the particular community health workers visits the rural place, he can use these kits which are present in the box in order to analyze or get the readings from the patients, and these equipments will automatically update the details onto the database through as they are Wi-Fi and Bluetooth enabled. The privacy and confidentiality of the patient's health information are secured by the identity-based encryptions. This particular service helps to patients to get a regular multi health monitoring process, both professional as well as basic. This application helps to increase the accessibility to the trained community health workers, and also helps the remote specialist for providing suggestions, diagnosis, and handle emergency situation when an patient is in rural area. Then this provides a high quality of care at a reduced cost and a treatment from a high qualified doctors. There is also alert mechanism which is being developed as part of this application, which alerts about the patient's health information. The particular application has a facility of creating a patient profile with a patient ID, which holds all the medical issues as well as the medical records of the particular patient. The psychological measurements, age, height, weight, everything will be recorded as part of the particular application. Can you move on to the next slide, please? The health of the particular patient is categorized as per the uh, healthy, alarming, and emergency. Healthy means it's general message when the patient is healthy and there's no abnormalities. For alarming and emergency, there are notifications which are generated to the patient as well as to their family members. Next comes the centralized storage of data for accurate monitoring. The authentication and authorization of the particular patient is done via their cloud ID. So when a user tries to access the cloud system, their device has to be registered and he's authenticated to access the cloud. So this is done for every time when the user tries to access the cloud. System is protected from insider attacks, that is malicious and non-malicious, as well as outsiders through data encryption. The private cloud restricts the access for the unknown users apart who are away from the other the organization which is using it. Can you move on to the next slide, please? The benefits of patients are: this provides patients to get consulted with the specialist doctor, where the unique, in case of any unique problem is experienced. Disabled patients are getting advantages where they can get their regular checkups done at their home to the portable CMED. It also creates awareness of the appointment schedules to the patient by getting regular updates. No need of any paperwork that has to be carried out by the patients, as all the records, patient records, are digitally stored. In case of emergency situation, the family members are also intimated about the patient's health condition. So this is also an alert facility for the family members. As part of the health providers, it reduces the paperwork as all the details are documented on the system electronically. And once the data gets uploaded every time automatically when there after an health monitoring is done for a patient. This improves the quality of care provided to the patients by the doctors. Can you move on to the next slide, please? So these are the various equipments which will be available in the CMED kit. Next slide. So this particular screen shows the various conditions, that is healthy, alarming, and emergency. So based on these values, this particular application will create an alert message to their family members and the doctors. Next. So now we'll be discussing on the issues that are faced by the patients as part of the using these tools or the applications issues. First one, the cloud-based EHR application. The implementation of this particular HIT system on a large scale in rural areas will be a difficult process. So mitigation would be using a centralized management of infrastructure where city hospital manages the entire infrastructure for this application, and the village offices just outsource the facility. The system is also not able to capture the entire problems which is present in the rural areas, as the stat shows 27.2% of the population were infected by hypertension, but there are only few thousands who were able to capture it, but it was like somewhat higher than the 8.1% which was already aware. So in this case we have to enhance this particular system in order to may capture more details from the patients or the users in the rural areas. Cost versus benefit analysis was not done properly, whether to use an external vendor instead of developing internally. As earlier mentioned, the centralized management infrastructure system may managed at a city hospital will definitely reduce the operational and maintenance cost for the rural hospital. They can just outsource the system from the city hospital. Next, please. These are the issues that was identified in the CMAD system as part of the second article, where there's a key generation which is happening at this particular system, which is generated by the community health worker. They have to generate the master key as well as the private key, which has to be required to access the data in the database. So in this case, there is always a problem in the trustworthiness. So as part of my solution, it will be like generating OTP for the particular community health worker and simultaneously sending an alert message to the patient's phone number and make them aware if their data is accessed without their notice. Can you move on to the next slide, please? So as part of the benefits and issues we discussed, always the benefits outweighs the issues. And as I feel, employing a cloud-based solution in rural area will definitely provide the following benefits, like improved quality of care, easy accessibility to the specialist doctor, where they can get cured for their chronic disease, easy awareness to the higher officials of the healthcare system about the disease spread in a rural area. The patients and family members will be alerted about the complexity of the disease, which in case of any emergencies. Diagnosis of the doctor will be easy, as the machine will be able to deduce the data, analyze the data, and show the results from which the doctor can start his diagnosis as soon as possible for the patients. So next comes summary and conclusion, which will be done by Abhinav.
Yeah. Hi, team, and hi, everyone. Thanks, Vignesh. Next slide, please. Now, I'd like to talk about summary and the conclusion. And initially, I'll talk about the privacy concerns. Coming to the privacy concerns, traditional privacy protection methods have lack on privacy and security integrity, which is only possible by eliminating personal information and by using an anonymous identifier to identify the patients. So in this process, we will make sure that every patient has one particular unique ID, where it will be shared by only the patient as well as the CWH worker, where only these people will be having a master key. So encryption of the data is very secure and it will be controlled by the CWH person. And here cloud will be categorized into the three ways of security, where private cloud, public cloud, and hybrid cloud. As name itself suggests, that private cloud is comprises certain stakeholders of the organization, where only certain users will be allowed. So here in our system, we will be using private cloud because of the security feature it has. Okay. In this system, we will be using identity-based encryption methodology, which will be using a certain key, as I mentioned earlier. So CWH is the admin for all the encryption key storage. Next slide, please. And CMAD framework is one of the huge prospects in developing countries for rural health monitoring. The process of CMAD framework is very simple and efficient. So whenever patients visit some local health center, For the first time checkup, CWH will record all the patient's data in the cloud database with the help of the unique key identifier, as I mentioned earlier. And these sensors of patients will transmit outputs to the CMED system and categorize the patients into healthy and alarming or emergency, as discussed earlier. So whenever a patient is in alarming state, it pops the error message stating that he need to go for the specialist. And if the abnormalities are some of the basic problems, then it will randomly generate some basic treatment suggestions. Or it will, if the conditions is much more worsened, then it will suggest for the specialist contact. Next slide, please. So there are various stakeholders which are involved in the CMED system. So now I'd like to briefly explain about who are the stakeholders who are involved in the CMED system. One is patient and CWH worker and CMED specialist. And CMED consists of portable health kit, wireless networking connection, tablet or smartphone, and whereas cloud consists of 8 categories. 8 resource categories where it consists of cloud manager, monitor and meeting, resource allocation, virtual machine, media content server, DB, and context server, transcoding server, streaming server. So all these are the components which come under the cloud, and components of CMED portable kit are digital weight scale, height scale, blood pressure sensor, blood sugar sensor, ECG sensor, so pulse sensor. Also all these components of CMED portable kit will help the CWS worker whenever he goes visit for the patients in the rural areas especially. Next, please. So to conclude, China's healthcare system often struggles to meet the needs of its 900 million people who are living in the rural areas due to the major challenges in preventive medicine and management of chronic diseases, due to which an EHR system based on cloud computing architecture was developed and deployed in Zilingol country of Inner Mongolia. The Chinese healthcare system is comprised of 3 healthcare providers, city hospitals, county town hospitals, and village health stations, which is very important for all the categories of rural population. So the challenge is faced by the village doctors system, where the main problem was the pay-for-service model, which is resulted into the preventive medicine and public health work becoming a lower priority. And it also became a huge challenge related to the health record systems. So in order to deal with all these challenges, a cloud-based EHR system was implemented. So the usage of private cloud provides advantages in healthcare by increasing the security, stability, and the patient privacy, as the healthcare organization maintains all this data in a very secure way. And the privacy of the data was a major concern which was addressed by securing the connection with TLS 1.0 encryption, and software was checked with SQL injection. As a result, cloud-based EHR was implemented in the rural region of China with 1.1 million people, which enabled which to establish chronic disease management program. So next slide, please. So ultimately, with proper growth, the system will easily bridge the difference between the mainstream healthcare centers. So next slide. So these are the references, and thank you very much.